Welcome to Season 3 of the Builders Podcast. I'm Matt Levenhagen. Here we share the journeys, strategies, and lessons that help entrepreneurs build what's next. Builders helping builders. Enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are rejoined by Rob Broadhead. Welcome back to the show, Rob.
I am so happy to be back.
So the first, this is part two, first one, or maybe it's going to be part 3, 4, 5, who knows, into the future. But this is the second time with Rob. The first one, we really got into your story and learned everything about you. We'd like to do that. That's kind of our baseline. So now we know you, and now you can just tell us all the great things you know in that brain of yours and help us, inspire us, teach us, learn from it. But what your kind of wheelhouse is technology. You have RB Consulting. I think that's what that is. You want to tell us, just take like a minute and just tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, at RB Consulting, we help businesses do technology better. We find essentially somewhere along the way, you're probably going to grow and you get stuck a little bit. You're like, okay, now I've been scrambling. I need to take a step forward. I haven't really been keeping an eye on the technology side of the house, and it feels like it's just like gotten into this big sprawl of licenses and agreements and tools and all that kind of stuff. And we actually talked a little bit before about like tools are great, but you got to be able to use them. You want to use them in the right way, in the right context. It's like, yeah, you may have the world's best hammer, but if you're using it to, pour a cup of tea, then it's probably not going to be a good fit. And that happens in technology probably more often than it needs to. And that's what we're here to do, is to help build a technology roadmap so that we fit technology to your business instead of trying to get your business horned into whatever the technology is that it's out there.
Perfect. Yeah, you're perfectly positioned right now because there's technology it's been around for a few decades or forever. There's always been some kind of technology, but with AI and everything now, especially, I think there's a lot of people that are like, what do I do? And I know for my own business, we were joking earlier because I'm usually pretty organized, not so much in my personal life always, but in my business life, I'm pretty organized. And I use technology, like ClickUp, services out there to make my job easier and to capture everything. And when we got on the call, I realized I hadn't noted something significant from our last episode to this episode. I didn't know where I was for a minute, but it's because the day that we made that recording, I didn't use my technology. And I've been using this stuff for years. I have ClickUp, I have Slack, I have other systems that help me in my day-to-day. And I've even created AI tools for myself to keep myself organized. Actually, that's a whole thing. But if you don't use them, they're, like even automations, like when I do something as simple as this podcast, I have to keep track of things and I have to have automations or somebody helping me take care of things or whatever. But it's that one little thing you didn't do that doesn't trigger everything else. And here we are. But anyway, I think depending on the business you're in, our technology touches us all. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. So where shall we start? Like, you help people simplify things and everything. Let's start with how you kind of grew into this. Like, where does this come from? Is this something that you solved in your own life and you're like, this could be a business kind of thing? Or how did that all evolve?
It actually, I don't know how much of it is, it's still something I struggle with sometimes. Same thing as you. I have tools and I'm constantly assessing them, and really it's like, how do I use them or how do I fail to use them so that I make adjustments? And a lot of it has to do with like where the business is and what our focus is and what our customers are and what we can integrate with them. So it's a moving target essentially. But I got into it because I found so often it was really that there's too many projects that I got into early in my career where it's just, people didn't really think it through enough. It was like, okay, we're going to go do this. And there wasn't the due diligence up front to say, like, hey, we need to we need this process to run 10 times faster. Well, that's awesome unless that process has a flaw, and now suddenly you're creating 10 times as many flaws,
Right.
or
Right.
creating them that much faster. And there's gaps. So often there are gaps that are between, and I think it's things fall between the cracks between the business side of defining a problem and the technology side of creating that solution. And that very much is where I've always been. Technical MBA sort of like I guess solidifies you into that kind of a path of being that liaison between the two sides and saying, okay, let's make sure we get the problem properly defined so that then we can have the right requirements and things like that from the technology side so that we can actually solve it. And that goes to really, like you said, like the rise of AI and stuff like that, to be, and it's been rising for a long time, for it to be in front of almost everybody now, where anybody can jump into a AI tool right now. They could sit there and do whatever they want with it. So now we have that, we've sort of like pushed all that stuff forward a little bit now. So now you have, instead of your technology being a team of people, you have this AI tool that can effectively be your technology team and go solve some of those problems. But now that means that I think it pushes it more on each of us, particularly if we're in a business trying to solve the problem, is to really think through defining the problem and how do we actually ask this question, or we frame the problem so AI, which is in a sense not very forgivable, because it's going to, whatever you ask it to do, it's going to do that. It's not going to intuit, it's not going to guess, it's not going to do other things that humans will do. It may ask questions, sometimes it does, sometimes it'll be like, hey, do you mean this or do you mean that, or here's three options, which do you want to choose? But not all the time. And honestly, I guess humans don't either. There's sometimes you'll tell somebody, you'll tell staff members, okay, well, here's what I need you to do, and they'll go do it instead of asking questions. But this is where technology meets humanity, is that we have to actually be very specific and detailed when we want to use technology to improve our productivity or improve our life.
Yeah, and I think so. I got some examples in my head, things that I'm doing right now. I think is going to tie really well into this. But I think starting with the fact that, and I see you just have to be in social media or belong to some communities or groups or whatever, and everyone's grappling with this stuff where it is an overwhelm, because it's like there's so
Mhm.
many things out there. And I think, and this is what's kind of on my mind at the moment, it's like thinking about what other people might think about, is the fact that I think I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't implement technology for the sake of the technology. Like you can't just that it's there. Like you feel like you have to be doing something with it, or you have to be incorporating some big system or whatever in your business without first figuring out like what it solves and what it's going to do for you, right? Is that because I
Yeah.
mean, because even me, like, so here's my example, and I've built a local AI system on my computer because I'm a nerd, right?
Mhm.
And and I have chatbot integration and all this stuff. And I'm building this system, and it's very easy to build this system, the foundation. It's complex. It can do a lot of different things. But I had conversations with my chatbot team about like, now that I've got this ability, how am I going to use it? And it kind of boiled down to, let's choose one, two, or three things that it can do right now in my business, even if it's still a little bit manual, that it can help me in different ways. And that's whether it's project management or working as a CRM, helping me in different ways. And that was kind of, it was like I had all these tools at my disposal and beyond. I even got to like N8N and automations, but really at the end of the day, it was like, okay, now today, short term, what's that one thing that it could take off my plate or automate or do well for me? Is that something other people grapple with and that could help?
Yeah, and I think it is. I think you mentioned overwhelm, and I think that's what it is. Is people, a lot of people I'm finding are running into the whole like, well, I've got to do this big thing, or like you said, it's sort of a solution in search of a problem, where they're like, well, I got to use AI. Well, why do you have to use AI? Well, because that's what everybody else is doing. Okay, well, the funny thing is, so what is everybody else doing? It's like, I don't know. And if you ask them, they're like, we don't know. We know everybody else is doing it. It's like, so everybody's pointing fingers in different directions. And and it's not that there are not solutions out there and there aren't people using it, but
Well, but the
Not
thing is,
huge.
people are freaking out because they don't want to be left behind. Because the
Mhm.
narrative is that everyone's using AI, and if you're not using it, you're going to be left in the dust. And so
Mhm.
you freak out like, I got to use it. Where am I going to use it? I'm going to try it for everything
Well,
or
that's the
whatever.
thing is I think it's is people are like freaking out because they're stuck. They're like, I got to use it. I got to use it. I got to do it now. Okay, take a breath, step back, and like just have a chat with it. Like one of the simplest things is go to AI, just open up a chat bot and say, this is what I do. This is my business. Give it like a couple of bullet points of like this is my day. How can AI help me? Ask AI that and see what it comes up with. And then because at some point it's like walking into a big networking meeting where there's all these people and it's like, oh my gosh, where do I start? Where do I start networking with people? Where do I start conversations? You just pick somebody and you just say, hey, I'm so and so. How's your day going? Or something like that. It's sort of the same thing with AI. It's like you don't have to start big. And
Mm,
I think it's an area that is it very much has got like a snowball effect. I think once you start playing around with, we'll put it in quotes, but basically it is. It's initially it's like exploring, researching, playing around with AI. You start seeing solutions. It opens your eyes to, oh, it can do this. Oh, it can do
right.
that. And then as you explore, you'll find new things it can do. You'll suddenly be like, oh my gosh, it can do that. I didn't even think about it. And well, then can it do this? And that's the train you need to be on that you're going to be left behind otherwise. Everybody else is doing this. Basically, I think it's I actually because of another conversation I had, I asked AI like, how is my AI utilization? Just give me a score. Something like that. And this is what somebody else had mentioned to me. And they mentioned what they did and where they were at and we dug a little deeper into like, well, how do you get that score from asking AI like, how did you do that? And it gave a lot of ways that you can use AI. You can use multiple AI engines that you can, and it was actually tailored a little bit towards my business because it had some of that knowledge in it. And those things are great because it's like and I wasn't using it a ton, but it's like, well, you're, in the top 20% or something like that. Some, that was, and it could have been it just trying to make me feel good. But from the things that when I asked, like, how did you get there? It made sense. The fact is, most people, based on that, are not using it for much other than maybe like a simple search engine.
Right.
And if you're not even using it as a search engine, then you're even behind that curve. But I think once you start doing it, then you're right now you're not left behind. There's most people are not ahead of you, regardless of where you're at. Most people are not ahead of you. But start using it, and then you're going to be able to just go along with the wave. You're going to grow. You're going to be comfortable with it. And it really is. It's just like I know it's fear and it's overwhelmed, but there's a point where it's just like, okay, just take a step of faith, do some simple thing, have a simple conversation with AI, even if it's like, where should I go for dinner tonight? I mean, it is amazing the questions I have asked AI and as I've grown to use it more. I've got a whole like it planned an entire itinerary for me for a 2 week vacation in another country, and based on some of the things we did. And now, how much of it am I going to use? I don't know, but it threw a lot of stuff out that I was like, "Ooh, I hadn't thought about that," and that's honestly, that's where I think AI's biggest value is. Yes, the automation, but I think it giving us stuff that very quickly is a sounding board that it's like, ooh, I hadn't thought of that is where I think we're going to get some of our best value.
Yeah. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. And I think one of the things for me using AI, and I use it prolific, if I can say the word prolifically, a lot. I use it a lot. And over the years, ever since it became a thing, because I love technology and I love all that stuff. But one of the things that it doesn't necessarily have to have all the answers. It doesn't have to just spit out the right thing, but it makes you think, and that's a key thing. Like it'll come up with things, and then you can kind of go back and forth with it and come to some conclusion that's or drill down. But so it's not like you're going to ask it a question and that's it, and it's going to just have an answer. You're going to like it or not like it. You can go back and forth and you say, well, I like this part, what you said. Yeah, let's drill into that a little bit more. That's what I love about it. It's like a thinking partner. So the other thing that really kind of jumped out what you're saying, and I think this is how I see it playing out. And I guess I don't know if there's any better way to do it unless you just have somebody do it for you, and hire somebody to do something for you. But it is that experimenting and using, because there is that thing where you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know
Mhm.
what something's capable of until you start messing around with it. And like I'm
Yep.
building this local AI system, and integrating chatbots and doing features and API stuff and whatever. And then every time I do something, I'm like, oh, and that next idea hops in. Let's put
Mhm.
that on the roadmap, or we might
Mhm.
go back to that. That's a vision. Take a note of that. We're not going to do that right now, but that's a good idea
Mhm.
later. And I'm doing that, documenting that as I go. But it's using it. It's also just listening and listening to podcasts like this, or listening to what other people and how they're using it. Because then you might, that's a good idea. Let me try that. Maybe I can do that. It's just being involved with communities. It's just, I think that's really the only path, is experimenting, listening, seeing what other people are doing.
Yeah, it is very, very iterative in how you do it, and it's very much like eye opening to like, oh yeah, I could do this, or that's a great idea. I actually like you. I've totally eaten the red pill or whichever one it is, and gone down the rabbit hole, and I've actually taken like, so I had bounced around with tools and actually ended up in ClickUp for about a year, and then was sort of like, I'm just like, I've got all these different things. I'm not a huge fan. I like, there's just, it's, things are not working the way I wanted to. They're not the right integrations and things like that. So I've actually built my own back end system of that, as I'd taken
Cool.
some very simple things that I had built, and because I'm an app guy, I had some of these pieces, but very quickly like, it is blown from like basically just like a little time tracking status reporting app to it's like a full blown, got all kinds of cool, like I run assessments through it and all kinds of like,
Yeah.
it's a full blown CRM plus, sort of like a delivery mechanism and things like that. And it has come along very quickly, and along the way, it has like what I thought it would be has evolved so much, because it will throw stuff in. Because I'll say like, I was playing around with dashboard the other day for, because I had all this stuff. I was like, okay, I need an employee dashboard. These are the things I want. I want these couple of things in there. These KPIs and some things like that. And it generated one out, and there's a couple things it threw on there that I hadn't even mentioned, but because I have this context of it with a sort of this ongoing conversation, like, this is when I'm in this conversation, this is the context. So this is the brand and this is the styling and these are the things we use. So it pulls some things in and I'm like, oh yeah, definitely. I didn't mention it, but I'm glad that it's there. But then, like it so often does, it'll have like a couple of bullet points that say, I can also do A, B, C, D, and E. What would you like me to do? And a lot of times I'm like, do all of that and then give it back to me, and let me see what it looks like. And yes, it's a, like, to build a dashboard, I probably went through, I don't know, 15 or 20 iterations of code, but I did it in I don't know, in an hour or two or something like that, and was able to put something together. I'm like, okay, this is a really cool solution for me. And while I don't think, not everybody's going to be at that point, because you've got to sort of know what you're doing if you're building a full on application. However, I do think that there's things like your emails and a lot of the templates that we've used in the past, sales and marketing information. If you've got invoices, if you've got customer messaging and stuff like that, those things, you can put that stuff through there and it's going to help you. Like, hey, did you mention this about your company? Or hey, you should probably bring up this special value. Or hey, you've got this offer, this is a great way for it to be treated as the top of a funnel, or whatever your problem is. It's like I said, it's like, worst thing that happens is it gives you something insane back and you're like, okay, that's not a good choice. But a lot of times it's going to give you something, and if nothing else, it'll help you when you're like, well, what do I do next? For example, like, okay, let's say I'm a company and I need to do a marketing campaign for a product. How would I start that? Ask AI, and it's going to start giving you information. And it may say, like, go find a professional. Okay, how would I find a professional? What are some questions I would ask? Those kinds of things are, and it's especially when you start telling it to, like, do it based on this book or this personality. I'll give you like a cheat. Is I found this, I think, talking to somebody else, is in a very short period of time, I was able to build a board for my company, an executive board for my company. And I said that was out of AI. And I said, okay, I want my board to consist of like, I think it was like Simon Sinek and Elon Musk and Tim Ferriss. And I can't remember, like I had like 5 or 6 people. And so it said, okay, well, here's the prompts. This is that style because these are very well known, managers and entrepreneurs and things like that. And it was really, it's fun actually, and part of it to ask questions and say, okay, I'm asking this to my board, and you get responses that you feel like, oh, okay, I could see it coming from that person, and it's stuff that like it's really fun because after you see it, you're like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense, but you wouldn't have thought of it beforehand. So it really does open your eyes to like, oh yeah, that's a perspective that I hadn't thought about. And those are the kinds of things that like there's so many like Easter eggs or little hidden gems and stuff like that in AI that I don't think any of us have come even close to finding where we can go with this stuff. And so yeah, try it and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, again, that's what it is. It's like you're working with this machine that knows everything, or the system that knows everything that's been fed. It's these
Hmm.
huge models have been fed all this information, and you don't know everything. You know a
Hmm.
lot, and you might be pretty confident in what you do. But if you can have a system that can actually help you come up with new ideas, or just throw something at you, and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. Like dashboards. Okay, so so uh, so first of all, I it's interesting. I think you said you use ClickUp a little bit,
Hmm.
and I use ClickUp. I've used it with my team and stuff, and we've used it for a couple of years. But one of the things I've done now, and this is part of the conversation, I kind of thinking about going here, because this is the things we're talking about now. It's like, how do you even do that stuff, right? Like I am building everything from scratch locally. Like I am that guy that's that's like having AI build databases and code and
Hmm.
JavaScript and doing all this stuff and connecting APIs because I can do that. Not
Hmm.
everybody is going to be able to do that unless you got a tech guy on your team that can do that stuff. But anyway, so this is one example of like how this is one of the first things. In fact, I think this was the first thing I solved with, or am doing with this local system, is where I have in the morning, I've created a form. So I go to my system every morning, and this is the first thing I do now, and it's helping me stay organized and plan my days. That's key. Is I have like what's called a morning brief, and I go in and I have a form, and it has specific questions. What are my to dos for the day? What are my free form thoughts? What's on the agenda today? What's on my calendar? Some of this is still, it's going to eventually be automated, but some of it's just manual at the moment. And then my chatbot will take that and analyze it and give me a plan. Okay, now this is local, right? This is like just basically talking to ChatGPT, but it's in my local, right,
Hmm.
on my computer. So I'm not using the app, I'm using it through API, and it gives me something I can copy that is a kind of a uh, it's instructions for the brain. Now we call it the brain. It's a ClickUp brain. We just call them the brain. Okay.
Hmm.
So ClickUp has AI built into it now.
Hmm.
I have a task in there, or I have it create a task. I drop this in with a prompt that's a pre-written prompt, and it builds out the task for the day or updates any tasks based on what my local says I should be doing, based on all the information it's got, because there's more to it. Um, and boom. So I'm integrated the two systems, even though it's kind of manual. It's just copy and paste, but I got the two systems working together. So that's just something
Hmm.
that like that was one of the practical things I did with that. But again, it goes back to though, like as I think about what I'm doing, this is something I feel like I would do for others, or if somebody like you would do for somebody, or you have to hire somebody to do this, because most of the average business person is not going to be able to do this unless there's some kind of system that is already pre-built. But the beauty of the way we're doing it, or I'm talking about doing it, is there's no limitations. I can build it how I
Hmm.
want to build it. If I want a dashboard, you're talking about those dashboards when it like creates things you didn't even think of all the time.
Hmm. Yeah.
and it looks better than you even envisioned. I
Yeah.
just had this general idea, and it's creating this beautiful dashboard. Anyway,
Mhm.
that those are my thoughts. But to speak to like just like how the average like somebody listening to this that's just got a business there, and we're sitting here geeking out, and we could go really deep on this stuff.
Mhm.
But what about the average person? How do they do the things we're talking about here? How would you advise them?
It's again, it's one of those things. It's don't take it the wrong way if you're out there listening that way, but it's like actually, it's like have AI dumb it down. A good example, like very similar to what you did, is I had stuff where we're entering hours and like reporting on tasks and stuff like that. So at the end of the week, well, we had daily stand ups, and then we also have weekly statuses. The daily stand up was one where it's like I got to the point where I was like telling my team, it's like once you've entered that, you can just copy and paste that into into Slack. And I, just like take the same thing and just do it again. Well, it was like them rewriting it initially, and then I said, well, I actually I went to went to AI. I said, well, what if I take this thing? Could you make this? What would it take to connect it to Slack? And it gave me this stuff. And honestly, I was just at a point where I was like, I don't want to do that much stuff because I had to set up some accounts and some access and stuff like that. I was like, I don't want to go through the headache of setting up API for this app to that thing. So I said, well, give me, I said, I went to the universal integration of copy paste. I said, well, just give me a paste button or a copy button that I can do that. I said, this is what it's going to look like in Slack. And when you do the status report, just have a button that says copy. And so now it goes in, it copies it, it formats it very differently, but it's specifically for the approach that we have in our daily stand up that's in Slack. And it's like, bam, you're there. And it's a lower tech solution than I could have done. And honestly, that's like my wife actually, I have to say, like, introduced me to this first when we were like, this is now many months ago, I guess. We were walking through doing some research on stuff. And somewhere along the way, she just said, hey, can you give that to me in a spreadsheet? And it's like, sure. And it gives you, it gave you a nice little Excel spreadsheet. And here's all the information. And it was one of those things that's like, light bulbs comes on. It's like, oh yeah, I can do that. I had done it, but differently when I was dealing with, direct conversations where it's like, I need just one answer or things like that. I didn't think about like, oh yeah, I can totally change the output. I can play around with that all day long. And that's what anybody that's non-technical can, is they can sit there and say, they can go through a conversation and say, here's my problem. I need you to solve it. And you're going to get to a point, and maybe it's like, well, here, maybe the solution is go build an application that does this. And you say, well, how would I do that? And it's going to say, this is what you need to do. And they say, can you like provide that to me in a PowerPoint or a spreadsheet or a document that I could turn into an RFP or something or that I could post on Fiverr or Upwork or places like that. I see a ton of those out on those sites where it's like it's obvious AI generated it. It's not. It's definitely not 100%. But if you don't know where to go next, you can do that kind of stuff. You can get those things. You can export it out, put it into a solution that works for you. Whether it is just like, give me something I can put in an email to my cousin that I know understands this, so I can send that to him and say, what does this look like? Or do this in a way that I can now send it off to a customer or a vendor or things like that. Or sometimes say, I can't take that. Like if it says build an application, say, all right, I don't want to build an application or I'm not capable. Don't make that an option. Now, if I don't build an application, what is my option? What are some other options? And you're going to find, one, it will help you. Two, you're going to find stuff out there, like we've talked about, that it's going to put stuff out that you never knew because you haven't spent that time. You've got like the ultimate little research assistant that's going to say, here's all of the things I found for this. And it's usually not going to say all. It's going to give you the top 3 or the top 5. But you can tell it to go deeper. Say, I don't like those. You gave me 5 solutions. I don't like any of them. Give me 5 more. And this is where you learn how to use AI and really leverage it, is that you learn how to have that back and forth conversation with it to get to something that really suits you. And as you save those, as you're sort of like, you can save those as prompts as you go. So now you can like put a pin in it and say, this is the context. And if you don't know how to do a prompt, or if it's not clean enough, you can tell AI, give me a prompt that reflects what we've just talked about. And then you've got something that you can give that reset, basically, to say, okay, these are the key things. You can even tell it stuff like, here's a prompt, how should I improve upon the prompt? I mean, it's like, it's very much an iterative kind of thing, but as you build into that, as you get comfortable with that approach to solving problems, you're going to find that you're going to get better at it, and you're going to be able to solve far more complex problems.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this morning I was so I'm still building on this system. Every morning I spend an hour or two on it. Right, that's my thing. Sometimes it goes 3, but in between things. But it's funny, the prompt thing. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I told it. So there was something. Still, I don't want to go so into the weeds with this, but it's interesting because I built a system. It uses multiple models that work together and do different things for me on a personal and business level. A lot going on. But one of the things that I realized is I use Claude for most of the coding end of it to build the project. And but I had Claude. I said, Claude, I'd like you to go in and analyze what we've built to this date, like all the databases, all the data, see how it's being shared, see, and give me, and it was like a whole thing, like give me recommendations, like where can we improve, where are there bottlenecks, where is there spam, where's there whatever. And it was kind of a starting prompt. I said, let's create a prompt out of that. So we can do this on every few weeks or once a month. You go in and we analyze what we've been doing and see if there's room for improvement. So this is self-improving thing. Mm-hmm. And so my thought process is now I use Alfred app for a lot of snippets and stuff I drop into things, or or I have, there's different ways you can save prompts, even in a text file. That's what I was thinking. But Claude's like, you know what I could do? We already had some crons going for different things. So we were doing locally, as like once a month on the 1st of every month, I can just create an MD file, a markdown file, and I will just be triggered, and I will notify you that this report's ready for you to look at, and it'll have analyzed everything and give me that report once a month. So the prompt so it's still a prompt, but now it's triggering automatically. I don't even have to think about it. It's going to show up. So that was just, but prompts are really prompt engineering and learning how to create prompt templates and all that is a whole thing. And I think that's a skill. Like if you're going to spend any time learning something, I think that's something that's worthwhile.
Yeah, a quick follow-up on that one is like, yeah, we got one of those. I was searching for flights. That was like we started, and it totally changed the flight pattern and what we were doing with this. But it got to the end of this conversation, and it said, hey, so you're going from point A to point B. Would you like, and it was 3, 4, 6 months in the future, how far it was. It was like, would you like me to build an agent that regularly checks on changes to flight prices in case you're to see if there's better options? And it's like, sure. And so it sends an email once a week now that it's just like, boom, here's the latest stuff. And it's like, it's one of those, it's like, it'll even help you where it's like, you don't have to come back and ask me again. I'll do that for you. So it does, and it learns those things. And I have a feeling part of that is like how you phrase those things and how you do those prompts does also lead AI in a sense to say, oh, well, then maybe you want A, B, and C. So while it doesn't guess, but it does, I think, look at all the people that have solved this problem. And these are the things that they also had. It's sort of like when you go to like Amazon or something, people that bought this also bought that. It is that kind of an approach. And I think it's really awesome if you're not technical or if you're not really comfortable solving problems, that it will actually bring some of that stuff in and say, hey, by the way, have you thought of this or have you thought of that? And help you then learn. It's like, oh, I hadn't. Oh, so now I got to think about when I'm building, this kind of a solution or when I'm solving this kind of problem, these are the things that I also need to keep in mind.
This is something you can probably build into instructions too for the AI. To say, if you give me ideas or go out, yeah, that's so what do you like if somebody's, I mean, I think a lot of people are already using AI and stuff, and they probably are getting better at it, but are there any resources or like anything like out there that you've come across that is, or a course or something that teaches people good prompting or anything like that? Or it's Like what would you recommend somebody do to get better at it besides just using it?
Honestly, I haven't found it's moving so fast that the couple of places that I've seen like courses on it and prompt engineering, they're almost already like,
Okay.
they're just behind. Honestly, I have found personally, I have gotten the most out of podcasts, out of
Hmm.
being on and listening to podcasts. And there is a just a flood of AI related podcasts that are coming out. There's all these people that, and even though they may only have, like some of these have got like 5 or 10 episodes or something, they've really just gotten started. But just listening to those conversations, I mean, it's again, you can use AI to do that and say, like, what would be a good way for me to learn more about AI? I actually did that.
There
I
you
said,
go.
how I asked AI after I got all that score, I said, okay, well, what would be the best way for me to improve on my score? And it ended up suggestions like, would you like me to build a roadmap for you for the next, I think for the next 6 months of what you should do to get to, a better usage? I'm like, heck yeah. And so it said, well, do this and try that and do this other thing. And here's some things. And it really has pushed me to be intentional about it, basically. And I think if you do something like that, and it's going to vary. If you're a reader, you're probably going to want to look at blogs. If you're in the car a lot, I think podcasts are great. You can just honestly, you can do searches. I would all like, if you want to, it's one of those, spend 30 minutes a week or 5 minutes a day or whatever works to your schedule, and just go out and do a search on just a regular search engine, which they all have AI in them now too, whether it's Bing or Google or something like that. But just be like, say like, what are the latest topics or recommendations or tutorials on AI, and spend a few minutes with it, because they're, what you get this week, 2 weeks from now may be completely passe and way beyond, you've moved way beyond it. So it is a challenge doing the learning side of it, because it really is a moving target. This stuff is moving so fast. You're getting new versions of these tools out. They're getting integrated into various areas so quickly that I think you almost have to do like a live search whenever when you want to learn. Sit down and do a live search and say, like, what would be 3 great ways for me to learn more about AI, and then pick one.
I think actually that the answer to ask the AI is like the takeaway here, because I think because I think the AI can tailor it to you too, personalize it. Like, if like everybody's, this is one of the challenges with talking to, even if I'm talking to a client, I always have to find a baseline, like what their knowledge is, technical knowledge or whatever, and then start there, like figure out, like I can talk more technical to this guy, I can't to this person, they know nothing about tech or whatever. But it's the same thing with an AI. You just explain they might already know something about you in the system, but um, you'll be able to say, this is the industry I'm in, this is what I'm doing, this is how I use it, this is where my brain is, my experience, and it can come up with a tailored response and plan for you. And maybe even ask some questions. I always say, what questions do you have for me? And it'll ask you questions. And that's something too that's really, really powerful, is that having it ask you questions, because then because you can't think of it all up front. But yeah, that kind of just using it. And you were talking before about how you can have it create a plan or something, and you give that to somebody else to do. But that can be a cycle as well. You give that to somebody else, their whatever their response is, what they're planning on doing with you, what they describe they're going to do, then you feed it back to that same AI, that same chat. Okay, this is what they said. What do you think? And yeah, it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, wow, I realized what the topic's going to be today for us. It just naturally just evolved. I wasn't actually going into this necessarily thinking we were going to talk all AI most of the time, but
Mhm.
it is the forefront of all of us in technology. Let's kind of land here. Like, one of the things too that I think I have mentioned to somebody, maybe I even created a little content around this or something, or on a podcast, where it's like, starting with the business problem, keeping it simple, start there, and then, but AI still doesn't have to be the solution. If it happens to be, that's what I think. Like, there's automations, there's different things we've always used, whether that's, with some automation platform like Zapier or something. or
Mhm.
Zapier, however you pronounce it. Um, but that can still be, maybe that's still the solution, but maybe there is an AI solution. Maybe the only way you figure that out is the things we talk about, is just trying and exploring and listening. And but what is my question? My question is, I mean, is how should the average person, like, listening to this, they maybe there's trying a bunch of things, but where should they start implementing or improving their own business, considering everything we've talked about here, obviously using it and asking it questions, using it more AI and stuff, but in general, technology wise, like, what is your advice to somebody today in this environment?
I like to find when I have the conversations with business owners and leaders, is it starts with like, what are your biggest pain points? And within that is, what are the things that you spend the most time doing? Because usually between those two, you're going to get potentially low hanging fruit that are, but more importantly, you're going to get things that are probably going to be the biggest ROI. These are things, if you're spending a lot of time on it and we can cut 10% off, then that's 10% off of a big chunk of your time. If it's something that is a very big pain point, then resolve it, removing that pain frees you up to go work on something else. It's the Dave Ramsey approach to reducing debt, where like, as you pay something off, you can move that money to something else. It's the same thing. It's like, as you have one pain removed, the effort that goes into solving that problem can now be put on top of solving other problems, and you're able to solve more stuff quickly. So I think you start with like, honestly, the easiest thing is look at your schedule, look at your calendar for today, this week, maybe even this month. Where are you spending a lot of your time? And if it's stuff that makes sense, so it's like working on your business, it's the things that are like, that is where you want to be, where you need to be for your business. Awesome. Find the places where you're not, where you're spending that time and you're not supposed to be there, or the things that, yeah, you're there, but you really don't like it. You would love to find a way to push that off to somebody else, or some other, automation or something like that. That's where to start. Is like, it's, instead of a solution finding a problem, start with a problem. It's saying about like, this to me, and that's where you start walking through. It's like, this is a problem to me. This is the problem we'll start with, that I want to figure out and think through a little bit. And maybe you do throw it at AI and say, well, here's my problem. What do you think? What's the solution? And that's where the conversation begins, because it may give you absolutely pointless solutions, and you realize, okay, I need to give it more information about the problem. Or it may give you solutions that allow you to go down some rabbit holes. That is the thing. It's sort of like you talked about, sometimes you spend an hour on your project, sometimes it's 3. I have a couple of those as well. I'm like, I have on my to-do list, I'm going to spend 30 minutes on it, that's it. And sometimes that 30 minutes grows into a couple hours, and it's just, that's the nature of the beast. And AI is like that as well. I a couple of people that in my personal life I've shared with them, my first time I ever tried Pinterest was many, many years ago. And it was when it was first coming out, and people were like, oh, this is great, this is awesome. And I was like, this doesn't sound that great, but I need to look at what it is. And the next thing I knew, I had lost 3 hours out of my life just going down rabbit holes. And that leads me to this, is like, be warned that you can end up spending a lot of time going down rabbit holes with AI. So, like I said, like, try to keep that context, and you may
Yeah.
need to put alarms on or something to be like, hey, you just spent 30 minutes having that conversation. And it's not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's just like, be intentional and know what you're getting into. Define your problem. Make sure you're getting good at defining problems, and then know when to say quit. Know when to say like, okay, I'm done for now, or I'm going to go test this solution.
Yeah, you got to kind of break it up. You can't, because it is all consuming. I personally, especially me, I could spend days, if I was allowed. I would, I would spend days and
Yes.
days, maybe the years, just doing AI stuff. Um, but yeah, I think, and do you think that, I mean, we basically still have all the same problems, right? We
Mhm.
just have a new tool or new tool set or a new team, a digital team to help us do better in those areas, right? I mean, business fundamentally hasn't changed.
Yeah, it just brings it down. So, I like the ClickUp example I use is like, there are common business problems that we all have. There's things that we always need to solve, and it allows us now to see the solutions that are out there, which helps a lot. Because if that's not your area, like, say you're, I don't know. you're trying to solve HR problems and you're not an HR specialist, you can use this to be sort of your HR specialist, and it'll say, oh, hey, here's 5 common HR solutions that fit your problem. That's awesome. And I think what it does is it allows us to either quicker access to the research to figure out what we need to solve our problem, or we can scratch our own itch a little bit better now and say, like, okay, well, I'm going to build, like, I want to build something that's custom, and this is what I need to do for it because it doesn't exist out there in the market. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that. Now, the downside is we're probably going to see a flood of things that go to the market too fast, just like we did in like the dot-com boom and bust. I think we'll see like an AI boom and bust as well, where there'll be a whole lot of crap that'll be thrown out there, and you're going to have to sift through it. But that's just part of the growing pains of finding ways to use our tools better.
Yeah, and I again, this could be a whole episode, but I like to build things custom myself. I still using systems like ClickUp and stuff, but like my local is flexible enough where literally if I decide I want to use a different model or something, it's just a flip of a switch. I can use Grok or I can use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. It's just all built into it, so makes it super flexible. So it adapts to the what's great today. So I can leverage the best stuff. But that's yeah. Do you have? So we're actually going to try to wind down here a little bit. Because this is something I could talk about for hours, and I'm trying to block myself from going too far into the weeds. But what? Tell us a little bit about how you got how you help people specifically. Like, do you got a story of somebody you've helped, and then like who do you like to work with, and we'll kind of wrap that together there and end on that note. Like, tell us a little bit of maybe an example of who you've helped or who you like to help.
Yeah, I like to help. Usually, the people that the best, my ideal customer is somebody that has gotten essentially frustrated or burned with their technology. They're essentially blocked in some way, form, or fashion. They're stuck where they're either they've got a solution that's sort of been working, but they realize that it's dying, or it's not there, and it's just getting further and further from what they need. It could be it's an aging system, or maybe it was just an imperfect solution from the start, or where they need to they sort of realize that what they have isn't going to allow them to grow. It's not going to scale. This very often happens with companies that have been around for a few years. They've gotten past the survival mode and they're trying to get into the growth mode. And when we're in survival mode, we're just like doing everything we can. You take every customer, every option. You're like trying to do everything to bring revenue in and all that kind of stuff. And you just like make it happen, make it happen, make it happen. And there's a point where it's like either everybody in your company is going to go into an early grave, or you've got to find a way to start like systematizing it and growing it and things like that in a way that's truly scalable, because you can't just, if it costs you an employee per every 5 customers, well, you can't just, keep growing customers and just magically find employees to fill that hole. So those are the things where it's like, it's the best conversations are when somebody comes to me and says, okay, I have a problem, and maybe they don't even know what the problem is. They're sort of like, this is what I'm struggling with, and I'm not really sure where to go next. And a lot of times the bonus is if they're like, I have technology, I don't think I'm using it right. I'm not sure if it's the right solution. I'm not sure if it's going to work for us. And that's where it's like a perfect fit for us. And even now, like that's the big one. We just talked about AI for a little bit there, and that's a lot of times that's the conversations I'm having these days. It's that conversation of like, I have a sense that I could use AI for this, but I have no idea what it would look like. And that's where we can give them some guidance and stuff like that, and say, well, here, let's talk about your business, let's talk about what you do, and here's some places that you can add some systems, you can maybe reduce some systems, you can improve steps, you can automate. And it's what we bring to the table is we're technology agnostic, and we've spent a lot of time in technology, so you don't have to. It's like you're just like, this is what I've got, this is sort of where I am, where do I go next? We're going to come in and help you do that and build a roadmap that's a nice plan to say, like, this is what to expect. We're going to fix some problems early on, and then these are the things we're going to do to prepare your business better for the future, so you can scale and grow and sky's the limit for you, because we're going to help you find out how to build the systems and the framework, the infrastructure to be able to do that.
Nice. Yeah, like I say, you're well positioned. I mean, this is something that is in forefront of a lot of businesses, and I think too, as I listen to you there, it's like everyone's worried that AI is going to take, and I mean, it's going to take a lot of jobs. It's going to like put people out of business or whatever. But at the same time, I feel like the same thing, even at the ground level, though, most people are just using it to do more and do better and
Mm-hmm.
and just improve their business, their efficiency, and all that stuff. And it sounds like you're the guy. If somebody wants to reach out, they want to learn more about what you do, where do they go? And if you're hanging out anywhere on the World Wide Web, like LinkedIn or anything.
Mm-hmm. LinkedIn, you can catch me, Rob Broadhead. Probably if you do Rob Broadhead, RB Consulting. There is a couple others that are in Rob Broadhead's, funny enough, that are in IT, but I'm the one that's in the US currently. So I don't think there's any others there. RB Consulting, our website is rb-sns, that's samnancysam.com. And we've got plenty of stuff there, and you can contact us. I've got a Calendly link, so you can schedule a little 30-minute call if you want to sit down and talk about these things and how to get unstuck. I am happy to do so. You can email me directly, rob@rb-sns.com as well. And I'm, if you want to skip all the contact forms and stuff like that, happy to do so. And I guess the bonus is, if you really like listening to this kind of stuff and geeking out, then we have the Building Better Developers Developreneur podcast, and we talk about this kind of stuff all the time. And we go down a lot of rabbit holes, but it is one that recently we have guests, and we've had a lot of them that we talk AI. And it seems like every time I talk to a technologist or a business owner that's using AI, there's something that drops out of that. It's like, oh crap, I hadn't even thought of that yet. And so it's like, take notes. And like I said, I think those are some great ways to improve your use of it.
I'm going to look for that. I'm going to look for that. You might have a new audience member. Anyway,
Excellent.
All right. Well, until next time, Rob, thanks for sharing everything inspiring, fun, exciting, all that good stuff. Until next time.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Matt. It's been a great time.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Builders Podcast. One more quick note about our sponsors. At Unified Web Design, we're passionate about doing better together, partnering with agencies and businesses to deliver exceptional web design, development, and ongoing support. And UnifiedLabs.ai is where we explore smart, practical ways to integrate AI directly into your website and e-commerce flows. From intelligent chatbots to marketing automation to back-end reporting, all with a strong focus on user experience and making your systems work smarter. If you haven't already, subscribe or follow to stay updated on future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, sharing it with someone who might benefit helps us grow this amazing community. Until next time, keep building smarter, bolder, and with purpose.